Hello guys, my name is Daniel Stephenson. I'm State Extension Weed Specialist for the LSU Ag Center. Today I'm going to be talking to you about weed control in cotton and really the importance of using residual herbicides in your cotton production. Here back behind me that you'll see in the photo is a plot that did not receive residual herbicide, whether it be pre-emergence or even residual herbicides such as a dual magnum S-metolachlor type product or warrant as a tank mixed in with a non-selective. And the non-selectives did work. You see the weeds that are behind me that are starting to die. But the problem is they were there when the cotton was young and was competing with that cotton, thus ultimately reducing yield. So it's extremely important that you consider the use of residual herbicide such as Cotoran or Caparol Pre, and then in your post-emergence applications, the use of an S-metolachlor product or warrant tank mixed in with your non-selective. Whether you're using the dicamba technology or you're using the enlist technology, the dicamba meaning extend, the enlist meaning 2,4-D. So it's important that we use residual herbicide to protect this cotton crop because cotton is extremely sensitive to early season weed control. As we discussed earlier and you were seeing just a second ago, the presence of weeds in a crop, particularly this cotton crop, when you don't use a residual herbicide. And what you're looking at now is where we used herbicide pre-emergence behind the planter, Cotoran in this instance, followed by our first post-emergence application of non-selective plus an S-metolachlor product, followed up by a second application of a non-selective with a metolachlor product. Actually, it was warrant the second time, I'm sorry. So it shows you the power of how there is a weed here and there, but it is much less than the number of weeds that were in the previous picture that you saw. So it's important that we protect this cotton crop. As I pointed out to you earlier, cotton is very sensitive to early season weed competition, so we need to make sure that we manage our weeds, and the best way to do that is to use a residual herbicide behind the planter, pre-emergence, followed by, in our first two applications of post-emergence applications of our non-selectives, whether that be a glyphosate with the dicamba product or a glyphosate with the 2,4-D product, that we use a legal residual herbicide. Earlier I was telling you the benefits of using residual herbicide behind the planter pre, so I specifically mentioned Cotoran because that's what my data shows as being the most efficacious and broad spectrum. However, you can run into a problem, as you see here. To your left, which is my right, is some cotton that did not receive Cotoran behind the planter, plus a quart of prowl. So a quart of Cotoran and a quart of prowl to my right, your left. And then to this side over here, it did receive. And I think you can see the dramatic difference in height. You will receive injury at times from using these residual products behind the planter, particularly if you catch a rainfall soon after planting, which this field did. Soon after planting, it received over an inch of rainfall. However, my data shows year in and year out, very rarely will this show up at the end of the season from a reduced yield standpoint. So here's the consequences of this. Not only is this side shorter than this side, but this side has only received one herbicide application post-emergence, while the cotton that did not receive Cotoran plus prowl behind the planter has had to have two separate applications. So based off data, you won't have yield reduction, but there is a chance of seeing herbicide injury when you use a residual herbicide behind the planter with cotton. What you see behind me here, I'm in a cotton field. This is glyphosate resistant palmer amaranth, and this is a terrible situation. And what I'm trying to point out to you is that the new technologies, albeit very good, and tools that our growers in the state of Louisiana need to manage weeds in their dicamba tolerant cotton or dicamba tolerant soybeans, but this is what happens when you're late. Palmer amaranth that you see here on my right can grow about an inch a day this time of the year. And with the late crop that we've had this year, it's growing very, very fast. If you'll notice the bend that you have here, this is dicamba applied within the last 4 days. And you can see behind me here. This is why it tells you that these products are not a silver bullet. They're good, they're needed, but they are not a silver bullet. So don't think that you're going to get bailed out by an application of dicamba to control glyphosate resistant palmer amaranth.